One single punch, Jake Paul KOs Tyron Woodley out cold. Worse than I've ever seen. In MMA or boxing, Woodley has never been finished like that before. One single punch puts him on the canvas, and he was out for like a minute. And if you also notice the punch that Jake hit him with, there was more power that could have been generated in that. Jake Paul has proved time after time that he hits extremely hard. But the way the punch landed on Woodley, he actually lands with the back two knuckles. He landed with the pinky and the ring knuckle, which takes off power from the punch and makes it a lot easier for you to break your hand. Where you really want to hit is with the front two knuckles, because those are aligned with your arm. Your arm is aligned with the first two knuckles, meaning when you land with those, the full impact of your entire arm is drilling through. Notice how Jake's fist rotates after he hits Woodley. The back two knuckles are bouncing off Woodley's head and still had enough power to KO him like this. So Jake Paul is cemented. The guy has legit knockout power. He can knock out anybody in the world at his weight class with one single punch. Doesn't mean he has the technique to do it against anybody, but he has the potential in his power alone. But the real question about this was, why did Woodley drop his lead hand? He dropped it as if he was trying to parry Jake Paul's right hand. And the only two possible things that he could have parried here were a right straight coming to his head or a body shot. But in boxing, you're not taught to parry a punch coming to the body like this. You use your elbows and rotate to glance the punch off of your elbows. And the crazy thing about it was, Jake telegraphed the overhand, he winded it up, gave a huge tell that he was going to throw it. I mean, he loaded up on his right shoulder, he rotated his stance perpendicular to Woodley, dropped his right hand, which gives the indication that he's going to swing it over with that momentum. And the punch itself wasn't necessarily fast. And Jake didn't necessarily make it look like he was going to throw a right straight at all. Tyron Woodley made a huge error trying to parry an obvious right overhand. And because of that, it's also an aspect as to why he got knocked out so badly. He did not know what punch was coming. He thought it was going to be a right straight, he thought he can parry it, it became a right overhand, he didn't see him and it blindsided him. And the funny thing about this was, Jake has thrown this combination in the fight prior. He faked with a jab to the body, but came up with a right straight instead. Which means, I don't think it was a body shot that Tyron thought was coming at him. Number one, you don't defend body shots like that. And number two, Jake went with a right straight before. So there could have been a conditioning factor to this. Jake throwing this fake jab to a right straight may have conditioned Tyron to parry instead of block like he did before, but the telegraph on the overhand was so massive, Tyron still should have been able to see that. Credit to Tyron Woodley for taking the fight on 2 weeks' notice. Of course, he's going to get paid heavily for the fight, but there's always a level of danger when you go into the ring, just like tonight showed. And the Jake Paul show is going to continue. He's probably going to fight Tommy Fury next. He's calling out Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. After this knockout, a lot of people are going to be interested in Jake's next fight. Even though this rematch with Woodley, for the majority of it, was pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, not much was happening. There were more headbutts than there were punches, and even more clinches to go with that. It ultimately was a very inactive fight, and for it to end so suddenly like that, I'm not gonna lie, it really woke me up. We did learn one other thing about Jake Paul in this. Being cut in a fight, he's still able to fight it through. The guy is tough. When things aren't going his way, he's not gonna wither under that. He's gonna try to make things work, and going to look for that knockout blow. So respect to Jake Paul for that kind of result, and his ability to go into the fight like that, face a little bit of adversity, and respect to Tyron Woodley for taking the fight on such short notice and giving respect to Jake after the fight. And it seems like, man, MMA has lost.